Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it was sent to me by one of our dear sister, and the translation reads like this. Hello, Brother Nanshi, how are you? Can you please post my own story as hidden identity? So me and my husband, like my current husband, we met. This was in the year 2010. That was when we met. When I came here to South Africa, I was with my late husband. This was in 2008. So along the way, when we were traveling in the forest from Beitbridge coming to Musina, that was when we met some thugs that are called Makumakuma. The other men that we were traveling with, they all sat down because those Amakumakuma, they came out of the bushes. They were screaming, sit down, sit down. But my husband, the problem with him was that he was once a bouncer, and he had once gone to Chiadzwa digging up for diamonds, and he used to take the diamonds from other people by force. If you would have found your diamond, my husband, he was working with this other syndicate. They would come and they would take the diamond from you by force. So he was that type of a man. We had that character to never back down. So even when he saw those two Amagumagumas, there were only two of them. He thought that he could overpower them since he was someone that had a very big body. So my husband then fought with those men. In his heart, he thought that the men that we were with, if they were going to help him, if he was going to start fighting with those two thugs, but we were just walking with cowards. They were scared and they chose to sit down. Finally, those two men, they overpowered my husband. When they overpowered my husband, when they were busy fighting, my husband then fell to the ground, and that other guy was holding a knife. He followed him. They fell together, and the knife went straight into my husband's stomach. The guy saw that he had killed my husband by mistake. They stole whatever that they stole from us, then they ran away. My husband, we tried to do whatever that we could for him, but we were lost in that forest and we did not know what we could do. And then it was getting dark. Then the other people said it was far much better to walk until we would have reached Musina, and then they would let me go to the police. But as for them, they did not want to get arrested. It was a painful thing to leave my husband in that forest, but he had died. What was I supposed to do? We then walked, but as for me, I could not continue with the journey. My husband, we had covered him with some tree branches, and when we arrived in Musina, I deliberately went to the hiking spot, and I knew that the police will come after me. I then got arrested. When they arrested me, I told them everything. We then went to the place where I knew my husband, where we had left him, covered him with those tree branches. We found him, but he had some of his body parts missing, but the body parts, they were not removed by people. It seemed as if there were some wild animals. I don't know if they were jackals or what, maybe hyenas, but he had a lot of scratches showing that it was an animal, not a human being, that had eaten the body parts. He had been eaten, Brother Nashi, by that wild animal. He was then picked up, and then the forensic took him, and after the forensic had taken him, it was a struggle since he did not have any documentation to return him back home. And at that time, when my husband was in the mortuary, I was in prison waiting for him to be released. That was when I was deported. Even though my husband was a dead man, they deported him too. I went and I buried my husband. So the problem with me was that I had failed to conceive a child for my husband, but he had his other mistress, and he had had 2 children with his mistress. So then they brought her because they wanted to chase me out of my home that I had built. So after they had kicked me out, that was when I decided to leave, and they blamed me because it was my sister who was in Joburg who had said that we were supposed to come and work in South Africa. So they blamed me. I left my home, my husband's village, and I went and I started taking care of my sister's children. When I was staying at my sister's village, I then went and I started doing other piece jobs, and I raised enough money. That was when I thought of returning back to South Africa. I spoke with my mom, and she let my other young sister to come and to look after our sister's children. And when I came back to South Africa, I started working at this other tomato farm, which was very close to the Zim South African border. There you would work. Indeed, you will work 24/7, no rest. And you were constantly being told by the white foremen that you were nothing, because they were more like you that were coming. So even if you were given a very small salary, there was no one who could even complain, because you knew that there were more people that were coming that were more desperate than you were. I worked on that farm, and that is when I met the man whom I later got married to. We then came to Johannesburg and we started staying with my sister. But life in Joburg, it was just too fast. I then got a job and we went and we started staying at this other plot. And that was where I had my first child, the second one and third one. So from that year, when we started staying together, we then thought of buying. They don't have them here in South Africa, but in our country, they are very popular in the villages. They are called diesel grinding mills. And we thought that we were going to make a lot of money. So when it was December, me and my new husband, we then went home. We had the money and we went and we bought that diesel grinding mill, and it was installed, and this was like brand new. But the day that my husband's auntie came, she just cursed my husband. She cursed him as if she was joking. She said, you. So you have thought of breaking the chain of poverty that is in our family. That is really nice. You look what you have done. You are the first one to ever own such a thing in the family. So you want to be a businessman. You no longer want to go and work in the farms in South Africa. Well, we are going to see. Then she went and she started tapping that grinding mill, and she was like, we are going to see for how long you're going to work. Are you going to work? Will you be able to grind my maize mill? I have a lot of maize grains that I want to be grind by you. We are going to see for how long you are going to work. But she did it whilst she was laughing as if she was joking. But we then realized that she was the one who had cursed our brand new grinding mill. From that day, the grinding mill was not working. It was always broken each and every day. It was another story, until we went to consult. When we went to consult, that was when we were told that the grinding mill, it was already broken down, and we could not fix it physically, but spiritually it could be fixed. For this was not a physical problem, but there was blood that was going to be needed. Human blood was going to be needed. I don't want to lie to you, Brother Nashi. We kept a body that once belonged to a human being in our house, the body part of that man, until that body part was totally decomposed. But after a very long time, because we were given some charms that we had to sprinkle on top of that body part each and every night, just after the sun would have gone down, we were supposed to sprinkle some charms on that body part. What me and my husband used to do is that we would keep it inside a cooler box, and we will cover that cooler box with a very big black plastic so that it won't smell. In our bedroom, we always had these perfumes that we will spray, those ones that last very long. These were the rituals that me and my husband had to do. So we were using the private parts of a man that we did not even know. That is what the traditional healer sold to my husband. My husband went there because I was told that I was not supposed to be part of that ceremony, since it had like the private body parts of that deceased man. How they were collected, I don't even know. My husband said that the healer refused to tell him, but it seemed as if the person had already died a very long time ago. So my husband came back with this private part, including the testicles. They were inside a lunchbox. He came with them, and later on, that was when he showed me and he said, this is the thing that is going to make our grinding mill to start working again, my wife. And I said, it is fine, my husband. We kept it in our house, and people, they were coming, Brother Nashi. Per day, that grinding mill, it would work from 5 a.m. until sometimes 9 p.m. people that would even walk maybe from 20 kilometers just to come so that we can grind their maize grains. And all the other grinding mills in our village, they were having problems, and after problems, these body parts, they worked for us, and by the time that they were all decomposed, we had made so much money. We kept on sprinkling some charms inside that cooler box in our village. Me and my husband, we were the first ones to have electricity, because we had these other electrical lines, but they were far from the place where we had built our house. But we were the first ones. We went to ZESA and we spoke with them, and we told them that we were able to pay them so that they can come and to connect us to the grid. They came and they gave us the quotation. It was a lot of money that was going to be needed, for the transformer was needed, and we bought everything. In that year, my husband traveled to South Africa, and he was happy. He was like, is it me? Is it me? Or am I dreaming traveling to South Africa by plane? We went to Harare, and he then flew to South Africa, and he bought the transformer. The transformer was brought by the truck, and my husband flew back to Zim. We were making money. So after the man had passed away, the healer who gave us the private parts that once belonged to that other deceased man, that was when I started to have terrible dreams, sleeping with the spirit. The spirit will just come to me and it will say, you are my wife. You used my private part to be rich. So everything that you have belongs to me, including you, because my husband, the money that he used to marry me, it was coming from that grinding mill. We had bought a lot of taxis. We even bought a bus, but it had like an accident where a lot of people were killed. So these were the rituals that we were doing. But now we have other rituals. My husband and I, we then went to Chipinge after he failed to sleep with me, because when he tried, it was as if I was a virgin again, and he failed to sleep with me. Then we went to this other most famous traditional healer to come out of Chipinge, and there he then helped us to renew the contract, to change the terms and the conditions. And after that, that was when we were given another contract. So what I do is that each and every year I have to sleep with 5 different men, and all of these men, they will die. I go out and I pretend as if I am a prostitute, and when I come back, I go with them into the bedroom, and then I sleep with the guy. I wait until the guy would have died, maybe wait for a couple of months, then another guy, until 5 of them. This I do. Sometimes when my husband is at home, he just locks himself in another room, as I'll be sleeping with another man. This is what me and my husband have to do. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by one of our dear sister, and that was the translation of that message that was sent to me. Strange things indeed, they do happen in this world.